But first, let's cross to our reporter Helen Wright at the English Community Care Association.
Thanks, Martin. Well, I'm joined now by Martin Green, Chief Executive of the English Community Care Association. Martin, what do you think is the toughest challenge facing care providers in England today?
Well, I think one of our biggest challenges is delivering personalised care, particularly in an environment where, for example, commissioners tend to commission blocks of care, and what we're trying to do is deliver care that's appropriate to individual needs.
I mean, obviously your organisation represents a very broad spectrum of care providers. How do you go about representing all their varied needs?
Well, I think one of the things that's quite interesting is that we do represent a very broad scale of providers, but lots of the issues are very similar. So whether you're in a large organisation or a small one, issues around funding, issues around quality, issues around relationships with your commissioners are all the same issues. And what we try to do is to bridge the differences and also to bring out the similarities.
You mentioned funding. I mean, what do you see as the solution to the issue of underfunding that some of your members are facing?
There is a very simple solution to this. There are some good independent costs of care exercises, such as the Rowntree Foundation's costs of care model, the Lange-Buisson model, the KPMG model, and what I would like to see is every single authority using one of those models so we can have a really clear and accountable cost of care exercise, and that should be the basis for the delivery of quality care.
So is this an issue that needs to be dealt with at a local level, or is this something that you'd like to see central government doing more to address?
Central government has a very clear role, and it should be instructing local authorities to use the costs of care model. And what we are clear about is that we recognise the system means that local authorities are responsible for negotiating local area agreements. But we also expect that they will use an independent cost model in trying to do that.
Do you think the situation is changing for care providers at the moment, and do you think it will continue to do so in the future?
Yes, I think it's developing quite a lot, and certainly the advent of things like direct payments, advent of more user power, hopefully more user involvement in things like the choices around care. What that does is it makes the relationship between the user and resident in services and the provider the central one, and hopefully what we'll see in the future is less interference from commissioners.
How positive do you think care providers do feel about that relationship you describe between themselves and individuals that they care for?
Well, I think providers are very positive, and they want to see a relationship which is based on their connection with their residents or their users. What we must do is ensure that commissioners don't try and interfere in that relationship, because essentially if you get a connection between the provider and the resident, you will have a very clear opportunity to make sure you fulfil people's needs.
As Chief Executive of the Association, what is your vision for the future of care in England?
Well, I would have a vision which is about care being, first of all, acknowledged and respected by the general public. People should understand that particularly residential care has a very important role to play, especially in a society where there are going to be more people with severe dementias. And I would like to see a system that understands people might go through continuums of care. They might start with some low-level support, and then perhaps towards the end of their life they need more high-level residential provision. And what I'd like to see is that all parts of the care continuum are respected and valued by society.
Martin Green, thank you very much for joining us. Martin, it's back to you in the studio.